I'm back.
Oh man, when was my last upload? Jeez, that's a long time. Can a person truly come back from the brink when they haven't uploaded their YouTube channel in so long? Beats me, but hey, let's find out, shall we? Welcome back, folks. To those of you that stayed, thanks for sticking around. To those of you that forgot you were subbed, thanks for forgetting about me in such a specific way, and please don't use this as an excuse to now unsub. I've been trying to figure out what video was going to be my big comeback to the channel, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't seem to focus and get anything done for it. Like, I even considered doing a Fire Emblem February this year to try and get back in the swing of things, but I am so far behind on my Fire Emblem. Like, I haven't even finished a single route in 3 Hopes, let alone played Engage. Also, remember 3 Hopes? So instead, we're going to take a step back, because nowadays I've been finding it hard to stick with too many newer games. It's one of those side effects you hear about as a result of the terminal condition doctors like to call getting older. Ooh. So instead, I wanted to revisit some older stuff, and when you know it, I've been hungry for some N64 era. And when I think hungry, I think of one Pink Menace in particular. Why am I, pretending that I tend to review modern games anyway? Why did I put that in the script? So, sit back, relax, chop up some maximum tomatoes, and let's dive in. This is Kirby and the Crystal Shards. Kirby and the Crystal Shards was a game for the Nintendo 64. It's the first Kirby game I personally played, so it is one that has a very special place in my heart. Crystal Shards is a story about friendship, and darkness, and heroism, and stuffing your face with food, foe, and friend alike. The game starts off with a cutscene of the sweet and innocent planet of Ripple Star and its fairy inhabitants being beset upon by the appropriately and on-the-nose named Dark Matter, which quickly covers up their planet in darkness and forces the fairy ribbon to flee the planet with their resident, shiny crystal. Honestly, it's not really clear what this thing's purpose is through gameplay, but it is important clearly, because the Dark Matter hound ribbon over it like she's fleeing the planet with the Krabby Patty formula. Anyway, she crash lands into our rotund hero, Kirby, who was just out stargazing one night, but after seeing that the poor ribbon is in trouble and needs to reform her giant crystal MacGuffin, doesn't even hesitate to jump right into helping her, because he's a hero. And also because, what else is he gonna do? Kirby ain't got no job. Kirby ain't got no kids. Kirby ain't got no life ambition. Along their journey, they'll bring in other steadfast companions, like a random Waddle Dee, a young artist named Adeline, who is going to disappear for the next 20 years after this, and Kirby's long-standing nemesis slash friend slash guy that kind of just doesn't really like him but eventually gets over it, King DDD. So you know how there's been a lot of people who had no idea who certain characters were in these Nintendo games until they played Smash Brothers? That was me with Kirby. And Samus and Captain Falcon and Ness, because to be frank, not having a NES or SNES growing up left a little bit of a gap in my Nintendo lore. I wasn't some long-time Kirby fan before Crystal Shards, and to be honest, I'm still not. I've always loved the Pink Puffball and have enjoyed every single game I've played from him, but Kirby was always sort of a periphery series for me. Just one of those games that was sort of on the edge of my radar, and I would generally only end up playing if somebody I knew personally recommended it. And that's exactly what happened with Crystal Shards. The first time I played the game was when I borrowed it from a friend in elementary school. So, as a person who had no prior knowledge of how Kirby games worked, going in blind was certainly an experience. For starters, there was the fact that I wouldn't bat an eye when I found out that the main gimmick of the game was combining copy powers, instead of just getting singular one-to-one powers like in the other games. Or the games where you had animal companions, or the games where you were just playing some weird form of golf with Kirby. By the way, did we mention that this is the 13th game made in a series? Holy crap, not even Legend of Zelda had that many games and spin-offs up till this point. That is wild. Anyway, point is, I didn't know what to expect going in, so there were some things that threw me for a loop. For example, every stage in Crystal Shards plays out in the same way. Kirby walks from left to right across the stage while avoiding colorful, cute, and sometimes nightmare-inducing monsters, while occasionally stopping to fight a mini-boss and then ending the stage with a little picnic with his friends where he has the chance to get an item or to get nothing. Your only feast tonight will be your own tears, Kirby. Enjoy your salt. After 3 or 4 stages, you end up fighting a boss that has at least 2 phases, and then you watch a cutscene as Kirby and friends head to their next exotic locale, where they do it all again. Rinse and repeat until you beat the game. So what's weird or different about all of that? Well, for starters, for some reason in Crystal Shards, Kirby didn't move with the N64 analog. He moved with the D-pad, and granted, this actually worked better for a side-scroller since there wasn't a Z-axis, and the N64 controller was, kind of a nightmare. So I see why they did this, but I will admit the first time I turned the game on, I legitimately thought my game was broken with how I couldn't move at the start. Also, as mentioned before, the main gimmick of Crystal Shards, and really most of the games in the series, is Kirby's copy ability. Kirby can suck up enemies, and if they're of a specific kind, he'll get some sort of power based on what they were. In Crystal Shards and some of the Dreamland games, this was a specific element associated with the enemy. Those elements being fire, ice, cutter, lightning, rock, spike, and bomb! 2 guesses as to what they all do. The elements are spread amongst various enemies, so it's more like a Pokemon situation where several enemies might share a specific type. So if you want a cutter power, you don't gotta eat the same Boomerang Knight looking guy every single time. But the big draw of the copy abilities in this game are the combos. As the name suggests, you can take any element that you get and mix it with any other element, at which point you'll get some kind of crazy ability. Combining 2 elements of the same type typically just makes a stronger version of whatever the base power was, but when you mix and match them, you get things like fireworks, lightning rock, refrigerator, lightning rod, exploding ninja stars,
lightsaber,
light bulb, lighting your head on fire with friction. Kirby? Bro? The combo powers were such a fun aspect of the game. There were so many cases where you'd be playing and you just decide, you know what? I'm gonna try something a little weird today. And then you throw together whatever the stage offered you and you'd see how you could play through it using that combo power. The combos created so much more replayability of the game too. Did you run through an entire stage using just the fire sword? Well, why don't you try it now with the snowball, or the lightning rod, or the ice skates, or a dozen other things. It was such a simple concept that invited so many options of play. And granted, it wasn't perfect. There were a ton of different combos to play with, but this also meant that not all combos were created equal. In fact, there were some that were almost downright useless. Take fire and ice, for example. What do you get with it? Kirby freezes, and then he melts. That's it. There's no tactical advantage to it whatsoever. You can probably kill a few enemies with it if you get really close, but that's it. Throw that in the garbage. And go back to using the Darth Maul saber, it's so much cooler. I think where this particular aspect was put on full display was during the boss battles. The boss battles in Crystal Shards, for the most part, can be tackled with multiple combo powers or lack thereof. But depending on what the fight is, you may have an incredibly hard time depending on which boss it is and what power you're using. Sure, fights like the 20th rematch with Wispy Woods can be handled with anything, but if you take, say, the light your head on fire power into the fight with the killer whale, it's gonna be a bit more frustrating. Conversely, you go into the same boss fight with the exploding ninja stars and you end it in like 15 seconds before you can really do anything. Overall, the combo powers are all neat to play with, but you'll probably find yourself finding a small handful that you like or are just useful, and by the end of the game, you're always sticking with those, unless you need to solve a specific puzzle to find a crystal shard. Which brings us to the next major aspect of the game and a staple of the N64 era, the CollectAthon. Kirby and the Crystal Shards is about Kirby's quest to free Ribbon's people from dark matter, and part of doing that is collecting all of the Crystal Shards. In each level, there's 3 shards that you can find, as well as 1 given automatically for defeating the final boss of a world. Typically, the way it works is the shard will be in an out-of-the-way spot, a shard will be behind a puzzle, a shard will be given after defeating a mini-boss, or the shard will be behind a color-coded barrier that indicates a specific combo power that's needed to break it. The challenge comes in 3 parts. finding the damn things in the actual stage, figuring out what you actually need to obtain the damn things, and then putting together a combo that you can take to it in order to reach the damn things. The game actually eases you into this in the first stage in a typical tutorial fashion, but it's still kind of funny. Oh hey buddy, you want a happy and pleasant adventure there? Gonna save the galaxy? Well look, here's the thing you need just sitting right here. Now wasn't that easy? Oh, here you go, here's the next one with an easily breakable block. Oh, did you miss the bomb power to break it? Oh, you little scamp. Just pick up a Poppy Bros Jr. right here and head on back. Now here's the mini boss. Oh, well, that was easy, wasn't? A shard for you. When the shard's behind a combo power wall, the challenge isn't even figuring out where it is or how to get it, but instead just holding onto the right combo power until you get there. Since not every single stage is going to have the elements you need in ample supply. But then, you get later in the game, and you are left staring at a wall while morphing into rock critters trying to figure out how you're going to get those damn shards. Okay, this is going to be an extreme example, but just indulge me here for a minute, because this particular shard is up there with the cylinder puzzle from Sonic 3 in terms of puzzles that drove me insane as a kid. For this shard, you not only have to break through the wall with the rock cutter, an easily obtainable combo in this stage, but then you have to find a way to ascend way high up into the air to obtain the actual shard. The rock cutter lets Kirby turn into statue versions of his animal friends from earlier Kirby games, and most of them have abilities that coincide with what they did in that game, except the fish, which does, literally nothing, even underwater when you think it would. Sucks to be you, fish. So the actual solution here is that you turn into Rick the hamster and then repeatedly tap the jump button against the wall to climb it. Soon enough, you'll reach the shard and be on your way. But here's the problem. The game gives you no indicator that this is what you can do, nor is it something you'll probably know that Rick can do if you've never played Kirby's Dream Land 3. There's really not any walls where you'd be encouraged to try this anywhere else in the game either, so how the hell would you know to do this if you hadn't played Kirby's Dream Land 3? If you were using a rock cutter, you'd probably just turning into the small bird all the time because it was the fastest one, because screw Rick, he's slow as molasses. I had no knowledge of Kirby Dream Land 3, so boy howdy did I try a bunch of weird hairball stuff instead, like flying as high as I could as the birds, turning back into Kirby to fly higher, and then trying to turn back into a bird, but it wouldn't let me go higher because I never lucked out on getting another bird form in time, so I just fall. It was painful. I think the only way I figured it out was because an issue of Nintendo Power told me how to get to it. And that's just one aggravating shard. There's also a shard you get by lighting up a room with the light bulb power so you can solve a puzzle, something you may not figure out right away. A shard in a volcano, which requires an ice power to get, something you probably wouldn't think to bring, because it's in a frickin' volcano, and something that is not indicated by the usual block color scheme either. This bullshit here. And finally, this one hidden shard at the bottom of the Ripple Star well that requires a lightning fire combo to get, and just looking at it, I'm not sure how you're supposed to immediately get that with how the water makes this area look. This was another one I imagined Nintendo Power predicted would be hard for kids, because they told me how to get this one as well. But beyond those few situations, most of the crystal shards are pretty easy and nailed down. The stages that Kirby runs through are all side-scrollers, and as a result, it also meant that treasure hunting wasn't too complicated. There's only so far you can go up and down and left to right before you've scoured the entire stage after all. Oh hey, maybe there's one down here. Nope, nothing down here but death. Also, unlike other CollectAthons of the era, like say Banjo-Kazooie and Jet Force frickin' Gemini, your game doesn't grind to a halt at the end if you didn't get all the shards. You can play through the entire game without collecting any crystal shards aside from the boss ones and still make it to the end. At that point, the only thing left in your conscience is the gnawing feeling that something is wrong. But hey, if you do get 100% and then rebeat the final boss, you get the true final boss. The reformed Crystal Shard outs the last of the dark matter from the Fairy Queen, and then Kirby and friends take a warp star to the newly formed Dark Star at the center of the galaxy. You then get a cool on-rails shooter segment where you shove all those shards you've been collecting directly into the final boss's eye and then rip out his tail before he explodes. This is still not the most violent and eldritch Kirby final boss battle, I should add. Crystal Shards is one of those games that was just a whole vibe. I feel like you can only say, yeah man, this game was a vibe about certain titles, and Crystal Shards was one of those games. Everything in regards to the presentation, the characters, the soundtrack, just all of it was incredibly charming. Kirby's an adorable and capable hero with a charming supporting cast backing him up. The presentation of the game almost feels like it should have come out of a children's coloring book, with the environments themselves being incredibly vibrant and delightful to look at. Also, there's the literal children's coloring book comparisons with how each stage has a lead-in with Kirby selecting it with a crayon. The soundtrack ranged from being upbeat and happy to mysterious and powerful, or down to foreboding and oppressive. The emotions of each stage were conveyed wonderfully through each element that composed it. I mentioned before that I haven't played many Kirby games, and that's always been a periphery series for me, but even then, when I look at the unique presentation choices that the game has used over the years, I can see that it's a series that's still never lost its charm. Sometimes you revisit old games and are worried that the fog of nostalgia will lift, and you'll realize that decades of experience, growth, and general higher standards will make you no longer enjoy it. But I'm really glad to say that didn't happen with Crystal Shards. So keep on keeping on, you adorable and yet somewhat terrifying marshmallow. Hello everybody! Just want to do a quick shout out here at the end of the video. Thanks again for watching this video. It's been hard to find a way to come back to the channel after being away for so long, but thank you everyone that stuck around and decided to keep watching and waiting. I wish I could give a better excuse as to why I've been gone. It's true, life kind of got a little hard, nothing life-threatening or anything like that, but, you know, one of the things about the channel was always that if I wasn't having fun doing it, I wouldn't do it. And for a while, life wasn't very fun, so I wasn't doing it. But I'm back, so thank you for being here. Want to give a special thanks to my very dear friend iBark. They're responsible for the wonderful thumbnail art you saw today for this, as well as being responsible for drawing and helping me design Fox, my PNG tuber streaming avatar that you can watch over at twitch.tv/tall_fox7. If you're looking for more content from me, I try to stream there every week on Saturday and Sunday when possible. And if you're looking for more personal updates or just want to see what I'm raving about or want to see some bad jokes, you can follow me on Twitter. Also, you should check out iBark's Twitter as well. They do wonderful art and are just pretty damn nifty in general. Please commission them for stuff, they're great. Links for everything are in the description below. We're going to get back to regular monthly review content as well as trying some short form content where possible. There's going to be a VOD channel going up for the streams in the near future, so keep an eye on things to figure out where that's going to drop. And other than that, thanks again for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.